They say motherhood is a journey, but let's be honest, sometimes it feels more like a roller coaster with no seatbelt. I bet you're like me, wondering why babies, or teens in my case, don't come with instruction manuals. Welcome to This Incredible Mom Life, the podcast that celebrates the beautiful chaos, quiet wins, messy moments, and everyday miracles of being a mom. I'm your host, Dummy, wellness coach, mom of 3 boys, and a passionate believer that you don't have to live at the mercy of PMS, burnout, or exhaustion. Join me every week as we hear the craziest and most unbelievable mom stories. I'll be sharing the huge accomplishments and triumphs of both our moms and their kids. We'll giggle, cheer on the kids, and discuss obstacles and lessons learned along the way. If you are struggling to be the best mom you can be, how open-minded are you to booking a free call with me? You don't have to live at the mercy of your cycle, and you definitely don't have to do it alone. Give yourself permission to let me be part of your support system. I believe that you weren't meant to just survive motherhood. You were meant to thrive in it.
Supermoms aren't perfect. They're powerful. And today's guest embodies that. Lauren Reisner is a former lawyer turned full-time writer and mom of 2, ages 9 and 11. Her transition out of law was largely driven by her chronic illness and the ongoing work of building a life that is healthy for both her and her family. Through her Substack, Molten Crystal, she writes personal essays that blend self-reflection, psychology, and a researcher's instinct for going deep. Her work examines how we understand ourselves, why we think the way we think, and why we do things the way we do, and what happens when we're finally willing to look closely. She also works as a memoir and narrative ghostwriter, helping people make sense of the stories they've lived and put them into words. Thank you, Lauren, for being here with me today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, we're going to have a great talk. So I usually start by asking you who you are a mom to. So tell me about your 9 and 11-year-old.
Yes, so I have my daughter Violet is she'll be 11 next month, and my son Sam is 9. I actually was at his 3rd grade luau at school this morning. So mom life of standing out and watching them in leis and hula skirts. So it was fun.
All right. Well, tell us a story about your kids.
Story about my kids. Well, when I was thinking about what to tell, I was kind of thinking about my journey of like how I ended up where I am. And the story that really stuck out in my mind was that about 5 years ago, I ended up having to have a hysterectomy due to a large fibroid, and my kids were very little. My daughter, I think, was around 3 or 4, and somebody in my family decided it was a fantastic idea to give her, I believe it was an LOL doll with the little teeny tiny shoes that don't stay on the feet, and the shoes kept falling off, and she's 4, so that was a big deal. And there was some time where I don't know, my husband was somewhere, and it was just me and her, and the shoe just kept falling off, and it kept going under the sofa, and she kept crying, wanting me to go look for it under the sofa. And I did, even though I had just had, major abdominal surgery, and I'm trying to get off the sofa, and I'm trying to reason with my 4-year-old about how mommy can't get off the sofa right now. But she was having none of it, and I did it anyway. And then that night I hid the doll so that she couldn't find it again. And fortunately, we moved her attention to something else because I was done with those shoes. So, and I think that, that was I'd have been having issues with my chronic illness before that, but that was the first moment where I think it was so intense, like it was so obvious to me that I couldn't do what I normally do, and that I had to start making boundaries with my kids on my physical limitations because, I didn't want to hurt myself further. So I think that was kind of the first moment that I went, oh, wait, I can't just go on my hands and knees right after surgery looking for doll shoes under the sofa. She's just gonna have to deal with it.
I love that. Yes, I'm sure many moms have hidden some toy. In my house, it was the kinetic sand.
Oh God, yes, I've hidden that, and the slime too. That's been hidden.
Slime I didn't even allow in the house, but kinetic sand. I was like, oh, this is cool. And it's supposed to be like, it's almost magnetic. So like you can use a
Yeah.
little piece of it to collect. And I was like, okay, that shouldn't be too bad. But yeah, it made a huge mess every time. And I would hide it.
Yep.
And then every few months, my son would see it. It was in the top shelf of I should have put it better, but it was like on the
Yeah.
top shelf of their toy closet. And he was like, Mom, there's the sand.
Oh, we found it.
Yeah, so eventually we had to really hide it, and I think I got rid of it. But
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
So if there's another mom listening, share your story, similar story with us where you had to hide a toy or get rid of a toy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that is not in life's instruction manual, but
No, no. The garage is a good place, just FYI. Find that I
yeah,
hide them in the garage and then they forget about it. So
yep. Awesome. Well, share more about who you are and what you do.
well, as you said in my intro, I am a former lawyer. I was a disability lawyer working for Social Security up until mid-April. And I did that for about 15, no, I guess it was actually closer to 20 years. And I couldn't do it anymore. It was just not working for me. Um, it wasn't succeeding at the job the way that I used to, mostly because of my symptoms were getting worse. And that was, and the stress of the job was making my symptoms worse, which was making my performance worse, and so on and so forth. It was not a great situation. And I started working with a career coach, not really expecting to figure anything out. It was more just it was a bad time to be a federal employee, and I didn't know how much longer I was going to have a job, and I didn't know what to do if I were to no longer have a job. So I was like, okay, maybe a career coach can help me. And over the course of about 6 to 9 months, she actually pulled out of me that I had always wanted to write a book and never thought I could. And she challenged me on that premise. And I started doing some creative writing classes and practicing writing. And turns out that I love it and I'm pretty good at it. And it's opened up a whole world for me. So I recently went all in. I quit my job as a lawyer and I went to full-time writing, and I've started doing ghostwriting now, so memoir and things like that. And I found that it marries all of my skill set perfectly. Because I was a disability attorney, so I was used to interviewing people and getting their stories and shaping their stories. And I'm also a narrative writer, so being able, to be able to understand the structure of the story. So it's actually turns out that I've been like preparing for this role as a ghostwriter my entire life, and I'm loving it, and it's been really fun, and I'm looking forward to just getting more of it. So.
Nice. And you hit a pretty important point there that um, if you're feeling like burnout, right, at work, your chronic symptoms and illnesses get worse, right? Which means you
Yes,
take more sick days for appointments and procedures and things like that,
absolutely.
which again affects your performance. So I think a lot of women are feeling that. I know, especially in healthcare,
Yeah.
where I worked, it's very common. And I had a similar story. Um, I, I was a stay-at-home mom for many years, but I was working part-time. And once I healed my own symptoms and I was like, wow, I feel so much better. I have more energy and more clarity and more, I set boundaries, right? Like I was
Yep.
doing all the things that I was supposed to do. And then I realized that I was just kind of going to work for a paycheck. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is not fun anymore. It's not sparking that joy. So I'm glad you
Yeah.
were able to take all your life experiences and put them together. Um, so let's talk more about chronic illness and how it affects people.
Yeah.
Because it can be anything in the body. So talk more about that.
Yes, so I'm a zebra, as they call it, where I have all the things that nobody knows what they are. So fibromyalgia, mast cell activation syndrome. I'm on the hypermobility spectrum. I'm still in the process of figuring out where I fall on the spectrum, and POTS. So I have the fun combination, which so it was a journey to even, and I think about it, and as a disability attorney, I read medical records all day. That was my whole job for like 20 years. So I knew I would read somebody's records and go, "Oh, wait, that's me. Like that's me," And so I knew I diagnosed myself with everything before I actually got them confirmed. And I had doctor after doctor telling me like, "No, it's just the fibro, or it's just this," and I'm like, "No, it's really not. I know." And eventually, I found a doctor that confirmed the diagnoses, and it, it's it was hard because as I mentioned, my symptoms were getting worse, and bringing it to momming is, my kids saw it, and you try to shield them from it, but there's only so much you can shield them from. So, every night my daughter would say to me, "Mommy, why are you always so tired?" Or, they would want to do something physical, and I'd have to say, "Go ask Daddy, I can't get off the couch today." And I really had to start. And it was hard because I was not that mom. I was always the mom that was, on the floor rolling around with my kids and doing everything. And now I can't. And that was a hard pill to swallow. And I really struggled with how. I think the thing that really stuck with me was, what are my kids going to look back on their childhood and think about when they think about me as a mom? Are they going to just think like, oh, mommy was just a lump on the couch all the time, or are they going to think about all the things that we did together? And I struggled with that for a long time, and I think that made it even harder because then I was putting all this pressure on myself to not follow my needs, which then made everything worse. So I think learning, I mean, it took, getting the right treatments and the right doctor and everything. But once I started getting a handle on things, it took actually accepting my limitations that enabled me to do more for, my kids, for myself, to be where I am. Because yeah, I think the more you fight it, the worse you end up doing. So you just have to, it's hard, but you have to embrace it in a way.
Right. Yeah. And it's very common that it takes time for the diagnosis to come about. As a healthcare provider, I will tell you that like all the symptoms are very vague. They can be related to 10 million things, right? So it does take time for it to figure out. And I'm glad you, switched doctors and found somebody who actually took the time and then did the research to figure out what was going on with you. So very important there. And then, yes, you're right. Your chronic illness affects the whole family, right? Your kids, yourself, your husband, your career affects everything. So how do we, I know you touched on this a little bit, but let's talk about it more. How do we parent while we're dealing with these chronic illnesses?
Yeah, well, I'm very lucky in the sense that I have a husband who is a very engaged father, which takes a lot of pressure off of me. Once I I accepted that because, before I got to the point where I really couldn't do as much, I had to be super mom in my head, super mom, super wife, super everything. And so I wanted to do everything. I felt like I had to do everything. I wanted to do everything. And he was engaged, but like, I didn't accept, I don't want to say I didn't accept him as a partner, but it was letting go, I think is the way to say it. And so I'm fortunate in that now when I say like go ask daddy to do that, because like I feel better about that now because daddy does the physical stuff. He's the one teaching them to ride the bike. He's the one outside playing baseball with our son, and he does the physical stuff, and they've kind of just accepted that, mommy does this stuff, daddy does this stuff. And I had to get okay with that. And once I did, I think setting the boundaries with the kids. So, like I get overstimulated really easily. And so, if the kids are touching me or making a lot of loud noises, and my son can be sensory seeking. And so he's always, but it's better now, but especially when he was little, he was always making noises as a way, we talk about sensory cups, how everybody has a different size sensory cup to fill. And he was always filling a sensory cup, but my sensory cup, we joke, is the size of like a top of a bottle, of like a soda bottle.
Yeah,
Mommy has the
too.
tiny one, and my son has the gallon jug, and so I'm overflowing, and he's still trying to fill his up, and so it was trying to learn how to get everybody's needs met, and including my own needs in that, because as a mom you tend to put your needs last. My kids need this, so I'm gonna suck it up and just let them and do what they need. But once I put myself in the equation and said, okay, no, my needs matter too, because I'm going to end up exploding at him because, I'm overstimulated, and that's not good either. And then I went, okay, so he needs the sensory input. So how can we do that quietly? How can we get him so that I don't get overstimulated and he gets what and so putting myself into the equation then got everybody's needs met, and I'm, and it's a happier household because I'm not, grumpy all the time. So.
Yeah. So important. Again, I know so many moms who are struggling with those feelings, and I had that too, right? Put everybody else first. I wasn't even taking care of myself. I was like, yeah, someday or whatever. And I thought, I thought I was, but I really wasn't. And a lot of the women that I work with, they say after they start putting themselves first and setting boundaries, right? And healing their own body, they say they feel like a new woman.
Yeah. Yeah, for
And I,
sure.
yeah, I believe that too, because I felt like that. And now I feel
Yeah.
completely different. I'm much more present with my kids, right? Like it's just a learning process and it's not perfect, but
Yeah.
I'm sure you can attest to that, right? We're doing one thing at
Yeah.
a time. We're just learning and figuring it out each day as it comes.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because I was actually just saying this yesterday. I've come to realize that I can judge how I'm doing based on the energy, the mood in my household.
Yes.
It's like it's nice to know that you're loved and needed, but also like I don't love that my well-being is like the metric by like the bare metric that everything is running around. But
Yep.
my kids are like right now they're happy and they're giggling and they bicker with each other, but it's everybody's getting along and happy. And my daughter keeps saying to me, like, Mommy, you seem like you have so much more energy and you seem like you're
Yes.
happier. And on the days when I'm grumpy, because everybody's got their grumpy days, everybody's kind of bickering more. So it's kind of like I've noticed I can tell how I'm doing based on how my house is doing.
Yep.
And it's not great, but it is what it is. So yeah, it's really taking care of yourself really benefits. I will say this: if you're somebody who's stuck on not putting yourself first or even equal to everybody else, think of it as putting everybody else by putting yourself first. You're putting everybody first because everybody benefits by you doing better. The energy gets better. You are more engaged and patient, and all of that. So it ends up helping other people anyway. So if it helps to think about it like that, then
Do it like that. Yep.
yeah.
My realization was when one of my boys said to me, Mom, you don't yell as often as you used to. I was
Yeah.
like, music to my ears. Ah!
And then you think
um,
like, oh God, how much was I yelling before?
yeah. And then you're like, oh gosh, they must have really hated me. They had a name
Yeah.
for when I was really angry. It was like Monster Mom is coming. Don't make her upset. So yes, I'm very glad she doesn't show up as often as she used to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. So talk about your ghostwriting services.
Yeah. So I what I love to do most is memoir adjacent. I mean, you can take that in all different ways, but I love people's stories. I love to learn about people. I to help them learn about themselves because in the process of doing a memoir, it really forces you to think about whatever story or you're telling in a totally different way, and it changes how you see it. And putting it in a narrative and a structure also kind of helps make sense of things that don't may not have made sense beforehand. And I find it fascinating to learn about people's stories. So I absolutely love to do memoir, but as a lawyer who's written 50-page briefs with citations after every sentence, like I can do that too, and do it well and enjoy it. So I kind of run the gambit, but if I were to pick, I love to do memoir. I think it's just so much fun to do. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, if somebody wants to share their story, where can they connect with you?
So my website is laurenreisner.com, Reisner, and I'm there. It's got all of what I offer and ways to contact me, and portfolio pieces so they can see the kind of writing I do. But yeah, I would love to hear from anybody who has a story to tell. Reach out, and I'd love to help tell it.
Nice. And I will put the link to your website in the show notes so people can find it real easily. Well, this was a pleasure. Thank you so much for
Yeah, it
joining me
was.
today.
Thank you.
And as we close, remember your health matters, your peace matters, and so do you. I'll see you again next week on this show.
Are you struggling to be the best mom you can be? Are you fatigued, overwhelmed, and stressed out? Are you losing precious time with your family because of PMS? If so, sign up for my free gift on how to start living in tune with your monthly cycle. The link to get it is in the show notes below. Use this guide to help you start to eliminate your symptoms of PMS, increase your energy, reduce stress, and fully enjoy this incredible mom life. The way I see it, you have 3 choices. You can try to figure it all out on your own. You can do nothing and stay where you are, or you can get the customized guidance you need to thrive as a mom. The choice is yours. Thanks for listening to today's episode. I hope you learned something from these stories. If you enjoyed this show, please make sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast. It really helps this show grow. If you have a mom story you would like to share, click on the link in the description below on becoming a podcast guest. Remember, the content on this podcast is for general information only. It does not replace any medical advice given by your healthcare providers. Please check with your doctor if you have any questions about your specific condition and before starting any new diet or exercise regimen. Thank you, and you will hear from me soon.